this Luxembourg Compromise, it's not set, but it disappeared. It means that the veto right in a sensitive issue, as tax in Ireland, can not be raised under the Luxembourg Compromise. If it comes in other areas, if it comes under direct taxation, it's still unanimity, but there they can, the Prime Ministers on their own, can move away from unanimity to QMV in sensitive areas. So I'd say the new unit established is more than a normal international cooperation. It's much more like a state. And where can you see it? You can see that the Constitution, as mentioned in the verdicts, it's taken over, it's established as a constitutional system, the primacy of EU law also against a new law. If the Dáil tomorrow will establish a law directly against a European law, it's illegal. They cannot do that. Only European law can prevail. Then the existing treaties, they had limits. You could say this area of health, this area of education was not touched by the European Union. Religion, basic rights, fundamental rights in your own constitution were not touched by the European Union. There were areas where you could govern on your own. This was in the past. With the Lisbon Treaty, there is no area where you can govern on your own. You cannot find an example. Francis Jacobs, who was who was the expert in the Constitutional Affairs Committee, will not be able to give us one single example on an area which cannot be touched by European Union law. This is, it has been developed by the court, but now there are no limits with the Lisbon Treaty, and there's no way back. Then there is the article establishing the European Union as a legal personality. This is a difficult concept to understand, because it has nothing to do with a personality or a legal person. It's a concept, meaning that this new entity, the Union, can make international agreements, not on behalf of the European Union alone, but on behalf of the Member States and the European Union. And they are directly binding on the Member States. If they make an international agreement on intellectual property, then you cannot give Bono a higher fee than what is in this international agreement. It has direct effect through the establishment of the concept of a legal person. The Union will be a state. And the old division between pillars, where you had the economic cooperation in the Pillar 1, the old Treaty of Rome, extended 5 times. Then you had the pillar of legal justice and home affairs, and then the third pillar and the second pillar on foreign policy. Those pillars disappeared. It means that the rubber paragraph, as we call it, the Article 308, 235 in the old treaty, 353 in the final edition, this rubber stamp article can then be used to extend community competences in all areas. And if it's not enough, then you have Article 48, Piece 6 or Dot 6, where you can make this self-amendment. And in the old treaties, there was no basis for self-amendment. In the new Lisbon Treaty, it's legalized that the Prime Ministers can extend the European Union competence in areas unspecified. So it's impossible to say this is not a state. It will be seen from other states, Japan, US, etc. It will be seen as a state constitution. We will have a president, a joint president, not elected as in the US, but we will have a president handpicked by the 20 of the 27 member states prime ministers. They will decide it in a secret meeting who shall be our president. It will not be prime ministers as we see in the US today, and the post will be given to Blair. It's already promised to him from Sarkozy, but it will not be for elections. There is a president. Then there will be a commission president to follow the president abroad, handpicked the same way, 27 member states' prime ministers meet, 20 decide who shall be the president, then they pick the foreign minister in the same way, and then you have exactly the same structure in the European Union as you have in the US and Japan and China. Then they go and negotiate. It's only seen from inside the European Union will not be a state, because what you expect from a state, this is that they serve you on health, they serve you on education, they serve you on welfare. And the European Union has no joint budget, no joint big budget. It has only 1%. 1% of the GNP is directed from Brussels. So it is in legal terms a state, but in social terms, seen from inside, it will not work like a state. But the legal base for establishing a state seen from inside are in the Lisbon Treaty as well. The prime ministers can meet and expend the budget. If they are unanimous, they can expend the budget unlimited. If they are unanimous, they can establish the joint welfare policy. If they are not unanimous, they can try the qualified majority votes or ask the court to do it, as the court already has done in important areas of social security and health. So the legal base for establishing a full federal state are in the Lisbon Treaty. That's the difference to the existing treaties. There were certain limits, even if the court has tried also to get rid of them. But there's a difference. It is a new concept. It's a state constitution in real terms.
The European Union have fostered something over the last year called Eurolat, and I'm a delegate to it, which is laying the groundwork for Latin America to all have delegates into a kind of a body, which in fact the European Union pays for. We've brought them over to Brussels twice now. Barring that, I think another thing that all MEPs have received is a report advocating United Nations Parliament. And there's kind of a move for a United Nations Parliament. You know, just little things like that. But I think more the bigger global question is how different things plug us into various conventions, say UN conventions, etc., for better or for worse, that nobody actually had any vote on, and were often decided in very political ways, and are suddenly showing up in the European Court of Justice. They will quote a UN convention on this or a declaration on that, and you say, well, where did that come from? What people in Europe ever voted for that? And suddenly it is being accepted almost as international law. So I think that that's more where I see a kind of a globalization. That, and I suppose the world trade. And I think for me, as a Munster MEP, and also as the delegate for this group to the World Trade and the Interparliamentary Union, I think at a very practical level, where decisions are made and then suddenly Ireland loses its whole sugar industry. I think that's because of very much a global decision then implemented by Europe, and you sort of say, hang on a second, how did this happen? And you try to unweave it. So there is certainly a global interplay, but what it looks like, I'm not sure. We just get sent reports about things that are happening or ideas for things that are happening.
Yeah, my name's Keith, and I'm from the organisation We Are Change, and I've talked to each and every individual apart from Cathy herself about this issue. It's about Article 14 of the Irish Constitution, it's habeas corpus. Basically, we've reason to believe that habeas corpus is not going to exist if this treaty is actually brought through. And I was just wondering if you could actually comment on this.
Basically, the Habeas Corpus Act, of course, is not endangered. But the question is always what in the Irish Constitution is being put under pressure and by whom. So, taking into consideration what Christophe and myself said before, in many areas the final interpretation of laws will lie with the Court of Justice in Luxembourg.